Well, good morning, everyone. This is Barbara Loonan Ellison, and this is the Everyday Riches Show. We are a little late going. We had a few little technicalities, but don't you just love modern technology? So we are here, and we are excited. So everybody's going to introduce themselves. Pat.
I'm Pat Knauer. I'm the CEO of Corner Office University, and I just opened a brand new business this week. It's more of a brick and mortar type business. Lots of good things coming up that I'll be talking about in the future because I haven't launched a brand new business like this in 18 years. So it's going to be I'm having a really good time doing all the things that I've done out there in the past. I'm going to be bringing to the show. Yeah. Larissa.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Larissa Banting, and I actually just opened up my new business this year as well, which is LBPR. And but I've been in publicity since 1993. So yeah, but it's the first time I just opened my own agency this past 2020.
Well, how exciting! And that's what we're going to be talking about this morning is publicity, because everybody knows is super important. Actually, you may not know publicity is super important. I mean, to be honest, this year was really the first time I tapped into publicity. I've been in business it's been over 18 years, and I have not ever touched publicity. And earlier in January, I was in the marketers cruise. Barbara was there as well. But I was going on the marketers cruise, and I was invited to an event where this woman was talking about publicity, and it really opened up my eyes to what a big difference it can make in your business.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I am so glad Larissa is on. One of the things that I'm excited about this week is I hired myself a virtual assistant. This morning, she was doing exactly what we're going to be talking about. She was putting stuff out on everywhere that I can possibly to promote. And I'm like, and I can't wait because this hadn't happened yet. So now this afternoon, she's going to be able to take this show and promote it out. And so, yeah, I am so excited. Just let's get the word out that things are happening. That 2020 has been a really tough year.
Yeah, it has.
People.
And for a lot of people. But the thing is, though, a lot of great things are also happening. And so that's what we're here to talk about. This is the Everyday Riches Show. To just, to learn about life, to learn about business, to learn some strategies. And that's what we are going to be all about. Like for myself, I'm on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. And part of that is having a successful business and successful relationships. So, Larissa, I am so excited to hear what you have to tell us. Yay.
And let me first start by introducing Larissa, because, you may know Barb, you may know me, but if you don't know Larissa, and she's the star of the day today, but, this show is all about you, and we want to make sure that you're getting tools and resources to be able to build your business and to be able to have the life that you truly love. And that's as Barbara said, this is what the Everyday Riches Show is all about. So we're so happy today that Larissa is here. And Larissa Banting is one of only a handful of professionals to be accredited by the Canadian Public Relations Society. Through her boutique agency, LBPR, she helps entrepreneurs amplify their audience and authority via publicity. Past clients include Bombay Sapphire Gin, and that's like a big name brand. The City of St. Albert, Nirvana, CBC, and CTV networks. After moving to Costa Rica in 2002, she opened one of the first destination wedding planning firms in Central America, and within 4 years had been named top 30 destination wedding planners in the world. She is also the author of the best-selling Costa Rica, The Brand Guide. I am so excited you're here. And are you still living in Costa Rica, one of my favorite places in the world?
I am. I'm just up on my mountain, just west of San Jose.
Oh, how wonderful. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Okay,
wow.
So we're going to sit here. We're jealous. Yeah. Because Pat's talking, we've talked about, just to live great. You know what? And that can be on your bucket list. And Larissa's going to help us get all of us get there.
Yeah.
You get to the beach very often?
I have not been to the beach since March because I'm an hour away from the beach, but we've been on pretty lockdown. Like they actually closed the beaches And
Wow.
yeah, we had the beaches closed, and then they slowly started to open, but it was like between like 5:30 in the morning and 9:30 like, in the morning. So it's like for 4 hour window. And it's kind of like, well, what's the point? And now they're open, like as of November 15th or October 15th. No, I think October 15th, they're gonna be wide open. But like, my daughter's not really, believe it or not, my daughter's not really a beach person. So she's always like, she doesn't want to travel. I'm like, well, let's just go. Oh, I don't want to be in the car. So she's 12. She's at that, kind of preteen, teen stage, which is interesting.
It is. And if you've never been to any of the Costa Rican beaches, number one, they're all open to the public, which I think is pretty amazing, right? I mean, it's not like a hotel can build on a piece of land and everything in front of that hotel belongs to them. No, it's still public beach, which I find amazing. And if you've never been to the beaches there, the sand, at least on the West Coast, is black. It's amazing.
Really?
It's amazing.
Okay.
Well, it depends. It depends if you go around like a Flamingo, like where Conchal and Flamingo are. That's like the closest we get to like white sand. But there are a lot of the beaches have like the dark sand because we have over 100 volcanoes.
Wow.
A lot of them are underground. But fun fact, Costa Rica is the youngest land mass in the Western Hemisphere. So we still have two tectonic plates that are kind of underneath, so we get a lot of like little minor tremors, but yeah, they say that we're not going to be like LA where one day it's going to be like boom. But yeah, so we do have actually our most famous volcano that was active, Arenal, just stopped being active. But we still have other volcanoes that are active. So it's actually from my house I can see 3 volcanoes.
How very cool is that?
Yeah.
So much to know about Costa Rica.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's a lovely, really quick. We have no army. It was outlawed in 1949, so all the funds that would have gone to the army instead have gone to social services. So free of public education. We have universal health care. We have one of the longest lifespans in the Americas, and we also have one of the few blue zones in the world. There's only 5 in the world, and we have one of them in Osada. And that's an area where a large population lives like very healthily to over 100 years old, like, still riding horses. And so it's a really interesting phenomenon. That's like, I think there's one in Japan, there's one in the US, but yeah, if you ever get a chance to check out blue zones, it's really, really interesting.
My dad lived to be 102.
Yeah. Wow.
And one of the things I really loved about Costa Rica was the internet. Really good, strong, stable internet. I have to say that. And that's really important when it comes to publicity, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, I know it's funny because my whole journey, this is what happened. Because I was like, how did you end up in Costa Rica? So I was working as a film publicist back in 2001, and we were shooting a movie of the week for CTV Network, which is like the largest private network in Canada. And we were shooting on the Caribbean coast, which has some amazing beaches, by the way. And it's actually my favorite spot. Punta Uva has like the most beautiful white sand beach. Anyways, and I met one of the actors, and he ended up, and was like, oh, well, we fell in love. So I went back. We finished the movie in Canada. I had to take 2 more weeks of shooting, wrapped December 21st. January 8th, I'm on a plane flying back to Costa Rica. And this is 2002. Yeah. So I thought I'd lost my mind. And, but I got here, and, back in 2002, we were still on dial-up internet. Like, nobody had Wi-Fi. There was no social media. This idea of a laptop lifestyle it did not exist because we didn't have the technology for it. Like, I remember trying to upload one photo because I had my friend had lent me her digital camera. It was one of the first digital cameras. Like, we were still shooting on 35mm film when we shot this movie. Yeah. Wow. So that's way back. The digital technology just did not exist. And I remember it would take me sometimes hours to upload one digital photo because, it'd be like they'd be going and going and going, and then the internet would drop, and then I'd have to start the whole thing all over again. So yeah, it was people probably don't remember, but it was painful. It was really painful back then to try to do what we just take for granted now. So when I moved here, I had to reinvent myself because I didn't speak Spanish at that point. I didn't know the landscape for publicity in Costa Rica, and I couldn't service my clients in Canada. So I pivoted and started a destination wedding planning company because I had just gotten married myself. I'd seen all the challenges I went through, and I thought, my gosh, if I'm here, my husband's Costa Rican. Like, what do people do who want to marry abroad? So I started my business, Weddings Costa Rica. Didn't have the money to start buying ads in the glossy wedding magazines, which back then was how you got the word out in the wedding world. So I was like, okay, well, also putting my PR skills to work, which is exactly what I did. We were one of the first weddings outside of Mexico to actually be featured in a major wedding publication. And then that kind of just snowballed. I started getting more publications. Eventually, I went and I did a PR tour in New York City, met with all the editors of like Martha Stewart Weddings and Brides, and interviewed on Martha Stewart Living Radio, which was a very good thing. And because of that publicity, because people were seeing my work and my name, Destination Weddings and Honeymoons magazine, they had this A-list, top 30 destination wedding planners in the world, and they named me to that list. And I was the only one in Latin America, south of Mexico, to make the list. Now, honestly, was I one of the top 30 in the world? I don't know.
Yeah,
but but it is perception, right? And that was the thing, because they saw me in the media and all these different outlets and on, they're on the radio, etc. That to them was like, oh, well, she must be one of the top. And because of being featured in that magazine and having that A-list logo, we hit seven figures, our first seven-figure year the next year. Now it's my fourth year of business. And so yeah, I went from a laptop, an old, like the clamshell iMac, MacBook, spare bedroom in our little apartment. That's where I started my business. And within 4 years, we had 14 employees and a 2,500 square foot building, like property. So all through publicity.
Wow. So, there's so much going on right now, with talk of busting up Facebook, because of this and all of that. So I've always said, never build your business on anybody else's platform. So publicity really plays big time into really stepping out and making sure that you've got a good, solid foundation for marketing and advertising your business. So what is one big tip that you could give to somebody about getting publicity out there?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is just to clarify what publicity is, because I think a lot of people get a little bit confused by it, because we've got social media, we have paid ads. So publicity is earned media. So that is where you're not paying for you're not paying for it. So you're also, it's not like social media where you're driving the narrative. So earned media is, being featured on a podcast, interviewed on the radio, being featured on the television, being interviewed for magazines or a newspaper or on a blog. So that is where you are being featured by a neutral third party, and they're using their megaphone to their audience to get your message out. So, like sometimes you can see, like I know some of that, again, because advertising dollars there's so much competition for them now. Like it used to be, the newspapers used to be like, the New York Times was like that thick on a Sunday, and now it's down to like this. And everything's moved on to online platforms. So they're looking for new ways to get advertisement and getting dollars in. So sometimes you'll see some places will ask, you can like do an advertorial, and that's where it looks like like a whole article, but when you start to read it, you realize it's really like it's a sales article. Yeah. And that's like a pay to play. That's called, because you're paying for that and you're the one driving it. But real publicity is if, a journalist finds that your story has merit and they interview you, then they go and they write it, and then it's published. So that is what publicity is. It's earned media. And the reason why it is so, so valuable is that earned media is seen as 7 times more credible by the public than paid ads, right? Because I'll give you an example. Like, say you see an ad for like a new Italian restaurant. You're like, okay, looks interesting. Yeah. But then your best friend turns around and is like, oh my gosh, Pat, I just went to this Italian restaurant, best cannoli this side of Florence. You have to go. What are you going to do now?
I'm going.
You're going, right? And why? Why, even though you saw an ad for that same restaurant, what changed your mind?
So yeah, I mean, part of it's testimonial, but it's recommendation. And again, it's from a third party. It's somebody who is not invested in that business.
Who has
Exactly.
who's somebody who has no tied
Right.
advantage to telling you about it.
Exactly. So that is why it is so important to growing your business, because it's, they say you need 8 to 10 touch points to know, like, and trust. And so if you are featured in the media and and you've got that 7 times the credibility, but also you can get much deeper into your story than you can on social media or you can with an ad. And that takes that whole know, like, trust journey from 8 to 10 touch points and shrinks. It sometimes, like, someone can even see you in one article or whatever and be like, that said, I need to go work with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another reason why it's so important. Also, the longevity. That's something that nobody really talks about, because if you think about social media, they you spend all this time, like, doing Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and what happens is that they don't have any SEO juice. Like, like, the reality is, like, maybe 1 to 2% of your audience is ever going to see that Facebook post.
Right.
Instagram and Facebook, their stories literally disappear back into the ether within 24 hours. So that, and maybe a fraction of your audience has ever seen it. I know people spend 90 minutes a day on social media, like, doing their social media, and if they spend even a fraction, like even half an hour a day on publicity, they're going to get, these, if they get it onto a major media site, all of those, like, they're backlinking into your site. So now, yeah, it's going to help put your ranking on Google higher, right? Because there's this whole Alexa ranking. So that's why it's so important to have backlinks on sites that have a higher ranking with Alexa, because that helps elevate yours. The other thing is that if you think about it, like, you're on there forever. If you're in an article in a magazine or in a newspaper, that lives on. And if someone goes and Googles you, that, something from like 2010, 2016 is still going to come up. That doesn't happen with social media. Not to, like, badmouth social media, but I think for a lot of years it's been like, oh, everyone has to spend all this time on social media. That's the place to grow your business. And they kind of forget that there's this whole other area of publicity that can grow it so much faster, and it has a legacy. And also, it's like people see you being on the media as having, yeah, like, it's like that you're an authority, as opposed to, oh, look how many, like, Facebook posts they did, like, great, well, that's you driving that narrative. So because that's why it's so important, because when people go and Google you, they want to see what comes up. And if you can have, oh, they've been on all these different media sites, that says a lot to them. They're an authority, they're an expert, they're credible, they know what they're talking about, other people, like all of that, as opposed to, oh, look at their IG, their Instagram feed, which has its place, but it's not the same.
So does being in a newspaper or a magazine have more weight than being on a television show?
It's different, right? It's different.
Yeah.
I mean, television for a lot of people is kind of like, whoa. I mean, it's TV is great. Usually you have a much shorter times, like, there, because the segments are usually a lot shorter.
Yeah, 3
It's
minutes.
also more difficult to get onto television because you need to be media savvy. Like, they want to make sure that whoever they have on that TV show is able to speak in sound bites concisely, is not going to look like a deer in the headlight, right? And and television is a visual medium, so you need to be very comfortable being on camera. So that normally comes with having experience with doing other publicity. So that's why normally, like, we kind of leave TV to like after you've been experienced for a while. But it definitely does have, it's not like one is better than the other. Like being featured on your morning, like the morning coffee show locally on TV is one thing. If you were featured on, the New York Times or Forbes, that's got a whole other level. However, I do want to say this is that while getting those on those major outlets has a lot of credibility and weight to it, never underestimate the power of those small, local, very niche publications to drive business. Because those publications, like, it's your local newspaper, if you're, whatever your particular niche is, there's definitely some sort of like publication that's very micro-targeted, that doesn't have the reach or the readership of Forbes or New York Times. However, those people are dialed in. Yeah. And they also feel a connection with you, like even your local newspaper, your local television program, because you're of that community. You're one of them. And humans, we're tribal, right? Like since the beginning of humankind, we've created like these little groups. And it's like if you were in the middle of the piazza, the piazza in Milan, and you saw someone with a baseball cap of your hometown sports team, you feel a connection to this person just because you're like, oh, you're part of my group, you're part of my tribe. And you might even go over and talk to them just because you have that connection. And as humans, we're always looking for that connection. So that is why those little publications, those dialed in, niche down outlets are so valuable to your business. In fact, I'll tell you a story really quickly. One of the biggest, most well-known wedding planners in the world, David Tutera. So I was, working with him last month, and he told a very interesting story where when he was first starting out, his little local newspaper, wrote an article about this guy starting a wedding business. And there were two ladies who cut out the article and kept it. And when the time came, both of these different ladies hired him to do their families, the bar mitzvahs, the bat mitzvahs, eventually the weddings, anniversaries, their company parties. And he said between just those two clients alone over the last 20 years, it's been a couple of $1 million worth of business to his company.
Wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he was featured in People magazine for his own wedding. And he said it was a great coverage, but he can't actually trace, yes, that gave me this business. So that's the thing. You've got to think about, yes, there's some publications that are going to amplify your authority very quickly, but then there's the smaller publications that are going to actually help drive business. So don't ever oh, let's hit some little teeny tiny, why am I going to bother about that? You want to cover it all because you're multifaceted. Your clients are multifaceted. They're not just reading one publication. They're not just looking to one news outlet. You want to be omnipotent. You want to be everywhere. And so that's why you want to really, hone in. One of the simplest things you can do to start your publicity is look for the low-hanging fruit. Don't try and start with Forbes because that's a lot of competition for Forbes. Even Business Insider, those are some of the big ones, or Oprah. Look at if you went to university or college, they all have alumni magazines and newsletters. They need to focus on successful alumni. And that's a great place to start because you can, tie it back into oh, my time at, whatever, college in this particular course gave me these great skills or
Oops, you should pause for a second.
gave me this foundation that I there we go.
Yeah, you paused for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, technology. Yeah, so that's the thing. You're gonna, again, that's creating that technology and creating that connection. And so everyone who reads an alumni newsletter is going to feel like a connection to you, and like, oh, because you're one of their they go Cougars or whatever, And if you have a hobby, maybe you're into crocheting or something. Well, guess what? There's like a dozen media outlets dedicated to like knitting and crocheting. And so you could, find a way to tie that into your business journey. Maybe it's like, oh, because of being able to, I have to focus on the minutiae, but also seeing the big picture when I'm working on a pattern. That skill, I've been able to translate it to my business, and this has also helped me become successful. So you see how you can turn around and find a way to tie your hobbies. If you're a part of a charity, like they're always looking to focus on their donors as well as their volunteers. Anything, start looking at your life through that microscope and start looking for those different opportunities to get the word out about what you're doing. And and that's the other thing, is just find the creativity, because people love, that kind of like, wait, what? Like, I wasn't really expecting that. Like the whole crocheting story, You can do that with any hobby, because it's not something people expect to hear about.
So if somebody has never done anything with publicity, where's the first place to start?
I think one of the best places to kind of get a jump start is something called Help a Reporter Out, haro.com.
Yeah.
So this is a free service. What it is 3 times a day, you sign up for it, and 3 times a day you're going to get an email, and it's literally over 100 usually reporters who are working on stories in specific, they break it down so you can scan it really quickly. It's like bio, medical, education, travel, sports, entertainment. And they need to interview people. They need experts to quote and to get information from. So you sign up for it. It comes in at 5:35 a.m. Eastern, 7:35 Eastern, 12:30, and 5:30. So those 3 times a day, morning, noon, afternoon. Spend 5 minutes to scan. If you see something that is going to be like, hey, this is perfect for me, stop what you're doing, click on it, answer, and go back to your day. Like that is literally, if you can do it all within 10 minutes. And, we're talking New York Times, Business Insider, LA Times, Good Morning America, like some Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, like everyone uses this service. So that's a really easy way, because then you don't have to start worrying about pitching or trying to research, because when you're pitching a story to an outlet, to a journalist, they get between 53 and 300 pitches per day.
Wow, I didn't realize it was so many. I knew it was a lot, but I didn't realize it was that many.
Yeah, it's a lot. So you really have to know your stuff, and you have to really be able to stand out. So that's why I suggest starting something simple like Haro, because you have a much better chance of getting featured. Like one of my students, she in 1 week put out she answered 5 queries from Haro. She was featured in 3.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So did you help her and guide her in how to answer and what to say? And
yes, actually, I actually have like a little tool, like a small PR package, for people to kind of start out on their own. And I guide them through how to use Haro, it has like a story bank of 600 ideas for pitching. I walk through, how to pitch, and how to put together your press kit, how to, all of that. And so just following through that, that's how she was able to get it. And I've other students of mine have also managed to get features on Haro, because it's basically, the thing is, though, you have to be fast, because they can literally get hundreds of people answering. So you need to be one of the first ones through, which is why it's so important to, like, as soon as it hits your inbox, stop what you're doing and just scan. My suggestion is to have your boilerplate ready in like a draft, or maybe on a Google Doc, so you can just like cut and paste it. So a boilerplate is like a paragraph of no more than 3, maybe 4. Like, try to keep it to like 3 sentences max. Who you are, what you do, how they can get in touch with you, your website, who you serve, how long you've been in business, and what makes you an expert. So if you've won any awards, like that type of thing. And just very succinct. And it's just like a neutral, written in a third party, like a third voice, like, you know, so it'd be like, Larissa Banting is like blah, 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 blah. And plunk that in when you answer Haro. And actually, anytime you pitch, you should always have that boilerplate in there. And then just answer the question. Like whatever the query is, answer it, but be succinct. Do it with perfect grammar and perfect spelling, because these are writers. You know, they live by the word, and nothing drives writers crazier than someone who has poor grammar. And give them the $1,000 tip. You know, like they're looking for experts. They're not looking for like the cliche or whatever. Like, give them the information that you would charge somebody $1,000 for. And because they're looking for like that something that's going to stand out. And that's why they're coming to look for experts. So if you put in something that's really great, chances are you're going to get featured.
And of course, part of that is getting your message down, knowing what you're going to say ahead of time, so that when the story comes about, you're very clear on what your message is that you want to deliver, so that when you put it out there to these reporters, they know that you stand out and you're different.
Yeah, I mean, with Haro, it's a little bit different because they're coming to you for, you know, like they have a specific question that they're looking for help with. But you definitely need to know like what are the angles that I can feature that are going to be completely different than anybody else. And when you're pitching to the media, when you're doing it the opposite way, like going out, kind of outbound, you need to really, yes, have everything dialed in, so that, oh, I'm a coach. Well, great, we're a coach. What makes you different? What makes you that unicorn? And that's where you need to get really dialed in. And that's where you need to like find those interesting story angles. You know, for example, look what's going on in the news. Is there a way that you can insert your business into something that's happening in the news? Right now, COVID is still huge in the news cycle. So if you have something that you've been able to utilize that is making, you know, working from home, working from school, schooling from home, not being able to have the normal, like if you're a therapist, you know, how can you, your 5 tips for coping during COVID, you know, because we can't be the same interpersonal interactions that we've had before COVID, right? So trying to find, where do I fit into the news cycle right now, and what can I bring to the discussion that is going to benefit the reader or the listener that they haven't heard before.
And Larissa, does your program help people to get dialed in like that?
Yeah, I mean, I go through and I show them how they can start thinking differently. You know, like how can you start looking at, like, because pitching is finding those unique story angles. And actually the story bank that I put together is actually, I researched Haro, like all the different queries of Haro over the months, and chose kind of the best ones that could be used, you know, kind of ad nauseum. And then what I work through is, and it's all like in 12 different niches. So everything from, you know, food to financial to education. But the cool thing is that then I walk them through a tutorial how you can take that one story idea and then spin it into different ideas according to who you're pitching to. Because, for example, you're not going to pitch the exact same way to Cosmopolitan that you would to, say, like Women's Day, right? Or Parenting Magazine. Like, you can take the same story idea, but it can be used to various outlets. It's just knowing how to change it. It's like, so the example I use is that it's like chicken. So there's that story idea, you could serve it as is, but then you can also turn around and spice it according to who you're going to pitch it to, right? Like, again, Cosmopolitan, you're probably going to want to make it like spicy buffalo wings. I know how to do such and such in bed. Whereas the other If you're pitching it to say like good housekeeping, it would probably be more like a coq au vin. And so there's your basic ingredient. Now go ahead and just start spicing it up according to who is going to you're putting it out to and who their audience's voice is.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Great marketing, great advertising, great way of getting your business out there.
And
so,
it's free.
Larissa, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm the only Larissa Banting in the world because it's a very small family and Larissa's not a common name. So it's my website is larissabanting.com. And you can find out more. I have my blog there, and also some great freebie, and also everything else that I have going on.
Fantastic. Cool. And do you have a special offer for our listeners today?
Yes, I do. It's called 365 Days to Power Up Your Publicity. So this is it's a media calendar. So you know how every day there's it's National Donut Day or Talk Like a Pirate Day, or this month it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So there is literally over 1,500 possibilities that you can go. Every there's maybe 10 different things going on per day. So what you can do as a business is look at this calendar, see where might fit your business, what date might fit your business, because there's literally something for everything. And then come up with a story idea to pitch to the media. Because again, the media is a giant black hole. They need stories, and they have to put something out there. And imagine if you were a reporter, it's you have to imagine having to write a blog post every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what they're doing. So if you can come to them and say, hey, guess what? I just make your life and your job so much easier because I have this great story idea. I'm an expert. I have everything figured out. Here's the angle. All you need to do is interview me. There's a much higher possibility that they're going to turn around and say, oh my God, great, let's do it. Especially if it ties in to something that, is in the news. So this is a great way to kind of get started. And I also walk you through how you can use it as well.
Fantastic. So I would recommend getting her freebie. I know I'm going to get it. How about you?
Yeah, you and me both.
Barb?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, just start it. That's just, like I always say, the media has to feature somebody, so why not be you?
That's very true.
Right.
Very true. What are you most excited about right now?
What am I most excited? Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, our borders are opening up again to everybody November 1st.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But no, I'm excited because I feel like I'm kind of like this evangelist for the entrepreneur world about publicity. And I'm really excited because I'm seeing more and more people kind of realizing that they can start doing it today. You don't have to hit some mythical yardstick before you're ready. Wherever you are right now, you can start your journey. And because you're not going to hit oh, I'm a Kardashian. Well, no, because they started from being nobodies as well. And it's all because of PR. So please, if you have a business, if you're being paid for your expertise, guess what? You're ready for PR because you're an expert. And so it's just going out there and getting the word out. And that's what I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see people start their journey and taking that first step.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Barb, any last words?
Hey, you know what? I'm so excited because that's exactly what I'm starting to do for myself. So it's so good to hear the confirmation that, wow, this is really something that is viable and doable. And, because you have to start somewhere. And I think that's the biggest key of anything. And I think both of you can agree that sometimes it's just taking that first step.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so often I find for me that sometimes so many people wait until they get it perfect or they get it right or they get whatever and that's in our mindset. Just do it. Take a step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the thing is, as you take that step, you start building media momentum, right? And the media eats itself. So you might be featured in one story and then another, because again, like they need 24/7 news, 24/7 news cycle. They need to fill their everything up, and they don't have, a ton of writers on staff anymore. Like everything has been shrunk. So they're looking to repurpose content.
Right.
And a lot of stuff is syndicated. So you can actually, getting into one outlet, that could spin off to like multiple outlets.
Wow.
So yeah, and the more you get seen, and the more it just builds. It's like a snowball, and that's why it's so important just to take that first step and get started.
So wonderful. Well, we will definitely put the link to your freebie in the comments area. So make sure you click on it and get Larissa's freebie by all means. And Larissa, any last words?
No, just thank you so much for having me. And you can definitely increase your everyday riches by just doing a little bit of publicity. Only 10 minutes a day is all you need to get started. Like if you don't feel like you can handle Haro 3 times a day, just do it once a day. But just get started.
Right.
With that, I think it's a wrap. So have a good day, everybody. And thank you, Larissa, for being here. Barb, of course, I'm always thrilled to be doing this with you.
Yes, this is fun.
Yes. Okay, have a good day, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.